The auction no one watched. The twin suns of the desert planet Drazul beat down on the noisy slave market. Traders shouted, buyers pushed, and creatures from all over the galaxy bargained for living beings like they were nothing more than tools or toys. But in the far corner of the market, away from the lights, away from the crowd, sat one girl. She was small. Her skin was pale blue, bruised and dry. Her long white hair was tangled, her eyes empty, and her body weak. She was chained to a metal post, knees pulled to her chest, head down. No one looked at her. No one asked about her. To the market she didn't even exist. An old alien auctioneer stood nearby, bored. His voice scratched like sandpaper as he spoke. This one, bah, weak, worthless, not even worth the food she eats. The crowd didn't stop. The auctioneer laughed and raised one hand. Fine, starting price, 1 single credit. Who wants this piece of junk? No one answered. People walked away. The auctioneer shrugged. No bids? Then she's sold for nothing. I'm not wasting time. He reached down to unchain her and drag her away. But just then, a quiet voice spoke. I'll take her. The crowd turned. A tall man stood there. Human. His face was covered in dirt and dust. He wore a brown jacket, sun-faded and torn. A scar ran across one cheek. He looked tired, but calm. The auctioneer blinked. You want this broken creature? The man nodded. Yes, the auctioneer grinned. You're crazy, human, but she's yours. He handed the key to the chains. The man took it and knelt down beside the girl. She didn't look up. She had stopped expecting kindness long ago. He unlocked the chains slowly. Come, he said, voice low. You're free now. She didn't believe him, but she stood anyway. Her legs shook as she followed him through the crowd. They walked for a long time. The heat was strong. The sand blew in their faces. The girl almost collapsed, but the man handed her a water pouch. She took it with trembling hands. No one had ever offered her water before. He said nothing. Later, they reached a small desert shelter made of metal and stone. It was quiet, safe. Inside, the air was cool. He gave her a blanket and pointed to a bed. You can rest, he said. The girl hesitated. Why are you helping me? The man didn't answer right away. He sat down and removed his gloves. Because no one helped me when I needed it, he finally said. She stared at him. Aren't you going to use me? He looked at her. No. Then why did you take me? He replied. Because I saw something in your eyes. She looked away, tears stinging her dirty cheeks. Later that night, she sat on the floor near the heater, holding the blanket tight. The man sat across the room, fixing a broken blaster. She asked again, What do I call you? Name's Kale, he said. She paused. I don't have a name. He looked up. You do now. He thought for a moment, then said softly, Lysa. Lysa, she whispered. She had never had a name, just a number, just a collar. But now someone had given her a name. It felt like the first drop of rain after a long, cruel drought. That night, while Kale slept, Lisa sat near the window, staring at the stars. She didn't understand why he helped her. Maybe he was broken too. Maybe he saw something in her that she couldn't see in herself. But deep inside, something began to flicker. A feeling she had never known before. Hope. Name she never had. The next morning, the desert was quiet outside Kale's shelter. Inside, Lisa sat on a soft bed, unsure if it was real. Her body still ached from old wounds, but something inside her felt different. Not healed, but not broken either. She had slept through the night for the first time in years. No chains, no shouting, no hands pulling her from sleep, just silence and safety. Kale entered the room, holding a steaming metal cup. "Drink this," he said, placing it gently in her hands. "It helps with the pain." She nodded quietly and took it. The smell was strange but warm. As she sipped, she looked at him. "Why did you call me Lisa?" Cale leaned against the wall. "You looked like someone who lost everything, but still had something bright inside." Lisa blinked. "I've never had a name before." Cale's voice was low. "Now you do." She looked at her hands. Thin, scarred. Once used for scrubbing floors, carrying crates, being hit for dropping things. But now they held warmth. And a name. She whispered it again. Slowly. "Lisa." It felt like a door opening. Later that day, Cale took her outside. The desert wind was dry but not cruel. He showed her how to fill the water tanks and how to scan the sky for ships. "Always be ready," he said. "You never know who's coming." Lisa watched him with quiet eyes. "Why are you teaching me this?" He looked up. "Because you'll need to survive without me someday." She felt a twist in her chest. "Are you going to leave me?" Cale gave a small smile. "No, but I want you strong. Stronger than the people who tried to break you." She nodded slowly. Something deep inside her stirred. She had always been told she was weak. Useless. A failed product. But here, someone believed she could be more. That evening, as they sat around a small fire outside the shelter, Lisa asked a question she had been holding back. "Do you believe broken things can become whole again?" Cale didn't answer right away. Instead, he took off one of his gloves and showed her his hand. It was made of metal, smooth, with faint lights glowing under the surface. "I lost this hand in a war. I thought I was done. Useless." He flexed his fingers. "But I adapted. I learned to fight again, live again." He looked at her. "So yes, broken things can become something new." Lisa stared at the fire. "Maybe I can too," she whispered. That night she had a dream. She was floating in a tank. Cold liquid around her. Machines buzzing. Voices above her. "She's unstable. Terminate." Then she saw herself, smaller, younger, reaching out to someone, crying. Suddenly a sharp pain in her back woke her up. She sat up, breathing hard. Her spine burned like fire. She ran to the small mirror near her bed, pulled off her shirt and turned around. There it was, a strange glowing mark just below her shoulder. Thin lines, curved, unnatural, faintly pulsing with light. She stared at, head was frozen. "What is this?" Cale knocked on the door. "You okay?" She quickly pulled her shirt down. "Yes, just a bad dream." He paused. "We leave tomorrow, early." She nodded, still staring at her reflection. Something was waking inside her, something they tried to erase. Not just a name, not just freedom, identity. Later, while Cale slept, she sat under the stars, whispering to herself, "I am Lisa. I have a name. I am not a thing." Far above, in the cold silence of orbit, a black ship turned quietly toward the planet. Inside, a voice crackled over a comm system. "Target identified. Unit L9 is alive. Prepare extraction." But Lisa was no longer just a number. She had a name now, and she was going to find out who she truly was, even if the galaxy tried to stop her. The hidden scar and the hidden power. They rode in silence across the red desert. The sun hung low, casting long shadows. Lisa sat beside Cale in the vehicle, holding her new bag close to her chest. Inside it were clean clothes, water, and something she never thought she'd own: hope. But her back still burned, the strange mark that had appeared last night. It was glowing again. It pulsed in time with her heartbeat. She hadn't told Cale. Not yet. She didn't understand it herself. By nightfall, they reached an old mining station built into the rock. The walls were cracked, and the roof had half collapsed. But it was still better than sleeping outside. Cale cleared some debris, set up the heater, and handed her food. We stay here tonight, he said. Early start tomorrow. Lisa nodded, but her hands trembled. Cale, she said softly, do you believe that someone like me could be dangerous? He looked at her carefully. Why do you ask? She hesitated, then turned her back to him and pulled down her shirt just enough to reveal the mark. It was glowing, faint but steady. Cale's eyes widened. He stepped closer and studied it without touching. That's not a wound, he said slowly. That's tech. Old tech, bio-coded, probably military or research grade. What does it mean? It means you weren't just a slave. You were made for something. Later that night, Lisa lay awake. Her body was still, but her mind raced. She remembered flashes from the dream, cold water, machines, voices calling her L9. She wasn't born like others. She had no childhood, no memories of family. Was she even real or just created? Suddenly she sat up. Her back felt hot. The mark burned bright. She walked out into the open air, stars shining above her. The wind brushed her face and the sand whispered below her feet. Then she heard something, a sound, but not from the outside, from inside her mind. L9, awake. She stumbled backward. Who's there? No one answered. The air around her felt heavy. The small metal lantern by the entrance flickered, and then exploded. Cale ran out, weapon drawn. What happened? I don't know, she cried. It just happened. He looked at the broken lantern, then at her. You did that? I didn't mean to. He slowly lowered the weapon. It responded to you. That's not normal. Lisa hugged herself tightly. I'm scared. You don't have to be, he said. You're not broken, Lisa. You're just waking up. The next day, they explored the old mining station. Before leaving, Cale was searching for old maps, but Lisa wandered into a side room. There she found a machine, dead, dusty, full of wires. She stepped closer, feeling drawn to it. Her hand lifted on its own and touched it. The machine powered on. Lights flashed. Screens blinked. Lisa jumped back, breathing hard. Cale rushed in. What did you do? I just touched it. He looked between her and the machine. You have control over tech. That's not common. That's rare. That's dangerous. She sat down on a crate, her legs shaking. Then they'll keep hunting me. Yes, he said, but now we know why. That night, as they camped under the stars again, Lisa looked at her hands. Once they were used to carry chains, clean filth, obey orders. Now, they could bring machines to life. She looked at Cale, who sat sharpening his blade beside the fire. What if I become something I can't control? She asked. He looked at her, calm and steady. Then I'll be here to pull you back. She whispered, Why do you care so much? He smiled faintly. Because someone once saved me when I didn't deserve it. Now it's my turn. Lisa turned her eyes to the stars. For the first time, she didn't just want to survive. She wanted to know who she really was and why they made her. But far above, deep in orbit, the black ship moved again. Inside it, a voice whispered coldly, L9 has awakened. Prepare the retrieval team. They weren't going to wait much longer. Hunted by her own kind, Cale's vehicle bounced over cracked red rocks as it sped across a forgotten canyon. The sun had disappeared behind clouds, leaving only the howl of desert wind. Lisa sat beside him, quiet. Too quiet. Her eyes stared forward, but her mind was somewhere else. The mark on her back hadn't stopped pulsing since the night before. The whispers in her head were growing louder. Return. L9. Obey. It didn't sound angry. It sounded commanding. We're being watched, Cale said suddenly. Lisa snapped back to the present. You're sure? He nodded. Not just watched. Followed. Someone's been trailing us for hours. Silent, fast, military-grade tech. Do you think it's the ones who built me? Cale didn't answer right away. We'll find out soon. He turned the vehicle sharply and pulled into a rocky cave hidden behind thick stone pillars. Once inside, he shut the engine and covered the entrance with a heat cloak. "Stay here," he said. "I'll scout." But Lisa stood up. "No, I need to know too." They didn't wait long. Moments later, shadows moved at the mouth of the cave. Not beasts, not bounty hunters. Humanoid shapes in black armor, sleek, silent, glowing faintly with the same strange light as Lisa's mark. 3 of them. Each one moved like a ghost, fast, trained, perfect. Cale raised his weapon and growled, "One step closer, and I shoot." The lead figure spoke, but not with his mouth, directly into Lisa's mind. "L9, come home. We will not harm the human." She stepped back, terrified. "You're like me. We are you. You were one of us. You still are." Cale looked at her. "Lisa, what's happening?" "They're like me, Cale. They're my kind." The soldiers raised their hands, but not in attack. They waited. Patient, cold. Cale took a step forward. "She's not going anywhere. She is property of the Dominion. You are interfering." "She's not property," Cale growled. "She's free." One of the soldiers moved, too fast. In a blink, he was behind Cale, but before he could strike, Lisa screamed. Her hands burst with energy, blue, fierce, alive. A wave of light shot from her body, slamming all 3 soldiers into the cave wall. They didn't scream. They just dropped. Lisa fell to her knees, breathing hard. Cale knelt beside her. "Are you okay?" She nodded, shaking. "I didn't know I could do that." He stared at the fallen soldiers. "They weren't here to kill you. They were here to take you back." Lisa looked at the one closest to her. The mask had cracked, opened slightly. Behind it was a face, and it looked just like hers. Later, as they burned the bodies, Cale stayed quiet. Lisa sat on a rock watching the fire. "They weren't just my kind," she said softly. "They were clones." He looked at her. "Clones?" "I saw my own face under that helmet," she whispered. "Exact. Same eyes. Same skin." Cale looked at the fire. "They didn't just make you. They made many." She clenched her fists. "And I was the one they threw away." He turned to her. "You're the one who escaped. The one who didn't obey. That makes you dangerous to them." She looked at him with fierce, glowing eyes. "Then maybe I should start being dangerous. On purpose." That night, Lisa couldn't sleep. The wind outside screamed like a warning. She held her knees close, eyes wide. She had powers. She had purpose. But now, she also had enemies with her face, and they were hunting her not out of hatred, but because she disobeyed. High above the planet, the real danger moved silently through space. A new ship, bigger, faster. Inside it stood a tall woman in red armor. She stared at a glowing screen. "Unit L9 has attacked retrieval team. Potential for rebellion confirmed." She turned to her officers. "Initiate Phase 2. She was supposed to be erased. Now, she must be recaptured, alive." But Lisa wasn't planning to run anymore. She had power. She had someone who believed in her, and now she had a reason to fight. Her past was a lie. The cave was cold and silent, but Lisa's heart was loud. She stared at the cracked helmet of the soldier she had defeated. Behind the shattered glass, she saw her own face again. Same skin, same glowing eyes, same features. "How many of me are out there?" she whispered. Cale didn't answer right away. He stood behind her, silent, watching. "They didn't just clone you," he said finally. "They copied you." A day later, they reached a dead zone, a forgotten lab buried beneath the sand. Lisa hadn't spoken the whole trip. Her mark burned more the closer they got. The station was hidden under the ruins of a city, buried in dust. The door was sealed with a scanner that looked dead, But when Lisa placed her palm on the panel, it lit up. Access granted. Welcome, Unit L9. Her knees felt weak. I've been here before, she said. I don't remember it. But my body does. The lab smelled of rust and chemicals. The air was dry, filled with static. Screens blinked weakly. Machines whirred in standby mode. There were beds with straps, cages with glass walls, and walls lined with files. Cale kept his hand on his weapon. Ready. Lisa walked toward one of the screens. Her fingers moved like they knew what to do. A hidden panel opened. Dozens of files appeared, each labeled L-Series, Test Subject Data. L1, Terminated. L2, Terminated. L3, Terminated. L9, Status, Escaped. Emotional Fault, Termination Failed. Lisa's throat closed. I was, number 9. Cale stepped beside her. They didn't see you as a person, just a project. She clicked one more file, a video log. A tall alien in a white coat spoke calmly into the camera. Subject L9 shows increased emotional response. When L8 was terminated, L9 refused to comply. She cried, attempted to shield the other clone. Error in obedience code. Conclusion, L9 is flawed, over-attached, dangerous. Prepare for disposal. Lisa couldn't breathe. She remembered now. The other girl. Her sister. Lisa had held her in her arms while the guards came. She had begged them to stop. They didn't. She stepped back from the screen, shaking. Her voice cracked. They erased everything. They erased who I was. But they couldn't erase your heart, Cale said gently. That's why they failed. Lisa stared at the lab. This place made me, she said. But they also feared me. In the far room, they found old stasis pods, glass chambers filled with green liquid. Inside were half-grown clones. Some looked like Lisa. Some looked different. Unfinished. Frozen experiments lives in waiting. I could have ended up like this, she whispered. Sleeping forever or worse. Cale looked at her. They wanted to make weapons. You became something more. She clenched her fists. They wanted obedience. I felt love. He nodded. That's what makes you powerful. Suddenly, one of the nearby screens flashed red. Incoming signal detected, location compromised. Cale pulled Lisa close. They're coming. Lisa looked around the lab one last time. Not yet. She placed her hand on the center console. The lights surged. The systems began to fry. Warning sirens blared. Flames burst from walls. Cale's eyes widened. You're burning it all? No, she said calmly. I'm erasing them. They don't get to keep this. She looked back at him. They don't get to own my past anymore. As they ran out of the lab, the entrance collapsed behind them, dust and fire filling the sky. Lisa stood on the surface of the sand, watching the lab vanish forever. She wiped her eyes. I'm not their failure, she whispered. Cale stood beside her. No, you're their biggest mistake. She smiled. And I'm going to make them regret it. Far across the stars, the red-armored commander stood in her ship, watching the burning signal from the lab. Her lips twisted into a thin smile. So, the girl has teeth after all. She turned to her officers. Send the offer. We'll buy her back, whatever the price. But Lisa had already chosen her side, and this time she was not for sale. The man who refused to sell her. They arrived in the city of Veraxis, a place made of light and lies. Tall towers reached for the clouds, and the streets were filled with glowing signs, hovering cars, and people too busy to notice danger walking right past them. But Lisa felt it. The eyes, the quiet tracking, the trap. They know we're here, she said to Cale as they walked through a narrow alley. I know, he answered, but I want to hear what they'll offer. They entered a small private room behind a nightclub, metal walls, dim lights, and a single round table in the center. On the table sat a hologram projector, already active. A smooth, cold voice filled the room. Thank you, Cale Varys. You've kept Unit L9 safe. For that you will be rewarded. The voice belonged to a woman in red armor, the same commander who had watched the burning lab. Her image flickered on the table. A sharp face, silver eyes, calm as ice. We offer you 10 million credits. Clean, untraceable. You may keep your ship, your weapons, and you walk away free. Lysa looked at Kale, her heart beating fast. He didn't respond. The commander continued. All you have to do is step aside. Leave the girl. She will not be harmed. She will be reprogrammed. She will forget you. Kale's eyes didn't blink. Lysa whispered, You don't have to do this. I won't blame you. He looked at her slowly. You think I'd trade you for credits? I'm just something they made. No, he said softly. You're someone I chose. He turned to the hologram. I'm not selling her, he said. Not for 10 million. Not for 10 billion. Commander's image narrowed her eyes. You're being foolish. No, he replied. I'm being human. Suddenly the walls opened. Guards in black armor stepped in, real ones, not projections, laser rifles aimed. Orders shouted. Kale didn't move. Get behind me, he told Lysa. But she didn't. She stepped forward instead. Her hands lifted. Her back glowed. Her mark, lit up the room. Machines around them began to spark. Lights shattered. The air turned electric, and the guards stopped moving, frozen, afraid. I am not a product, Lysa said. Her voice echoed like thunder. And I will never go back. She looked at Kale. Let's go. They ran. Together. Back at the ship, alarms blared as they took off from the landing pad. Enemy ships tried to lock on, but Lysa placed her hand on the controls. And the ship obeyed her. The engines roared, shields surged, and within seconds they were gone, stars stretching into lines behind them. Hours passed. Finally, it was quiet. They drifted in the dark of space, surrounded by nothing but stars. Kale sat in the pilot's seat, wounded and tired. Lysa sat beside him, eyes wide with emotion. You could have left, she whispered. I didn't save you to give you back, he replied. But why? She asked. I don't understand. He looked at her and said 3 simple words. Because you're worth it, she cried softly, not out of sadness, but because she believed him. For the first time in her life, someone saw her, not as a tool, not as a weapon, but as a person. Far behind them, on the dark bridge of a warship, the red-armored commander watched her screen crackle and die. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were furious. No more offers. She turned to her soldiers. Next, time. We take them both. But Lysa was no longer running. She had something far more dangerous than power. She had someone who refused to give her up. And now she was ready to face everything. She rose and made the galaxy kneel. The stars watched silently as Lysa stood in the center of the darkened ship. Behind her, the quiet hum of Kale's breathing reminded her she wasn't alone. But ahead, waiting deep in orbit, was the enemy that had made her. The Dominion warship hovered like a god above the moon of Kale 9. It was massive, built with black steel and cruel minds. Inside it, the very lab where she had been born still pulsed with the same power that once erased her memories. But not anymore. Now she remembered everything, and she had returned, not to obey, but to end it all. Are you ready? Kale asked. Standing at her side, armored and calm, she nodded. No more running. He checked his blaster. No more chains. She placed her hand on the ship's console. Lights surged blue from her fingers. I'm going inside alone. What? Kale turned. No, she smiled gently. You brought me back to life, Kale. But this is something I have to face as me. He stared at her for a long time, then finally nodded. Promise me one thing, he said. What? Come back. She placed her forehead against his. I will. She exited the dropship alone. The Dominion guards didn't expect her to walk through the main doors without fear, but that's exactly what she did. Alarms blared. Guns raised. Lisa raised a single hand, and every weapon in the hallway melted. The power inside her was no longer sleeping. She walked through the warship like a storm. Doors unlocked at her presence. Lights flickered as her footsteps echoed. Her mark glowed like a star on her back, burning brighter than ever. Then finally she reached the chamber where it all began, the Genesis core. There, inside a glowing glass room, stood Commander Vera, the red-armored woman who had ordered her to be erased. Behind her, more pods lined the walls. Children, clones, new versions of Lisa. Better controlled, more obedient. You should have stayed hidden, Vera said calmly. Now, they'll see how worthless you truly are. I'm not the one hiding behind a cage, Lisa replied. Vera's eyes narrowed. You think emotions make you strong? No, Lisa said, stepping forward. They make me human. Vera snapped her fingers. 10 elite guards entered the chamber. Each wore dark armor. Each had glowing blue eyes. Each was a clone. Her sister. Lisa's heart cracked. They moved like machines. No feelings. No thoughts, just orders. Stop her, Vera commanded. They charged. Lisa didn't fight with fists. She closed her eyes and reached inward, to the memories, the pain, the kindness. The moment Kale gave her a name, and she let it all go, her body burst. With light, blinding, raw, unstoppable. The clones froze mid-attack. The light touched them, and one by one, they dropped their weapons. Their eyes changed, confused, afraid, alive. I remember, one whispered. Lisa walked forward. You're not weapons. You're not things. You're people, Vera screamed. No, you were made to obey. Ran toward the control panel. Lisa reached out, and the panel exploded in blue fire. You don't control us anymore. Vera pulled a plasma blade and rushed forward, but Lisa caught it with her bare hand. The blade shattered. You tried to destroy me, she said, her voice calm like thunder. Now I'll destroy everything you stood for. She touched the Genesis core. It screamed. The ship shook. Every lab, every file, every control system wiped clean in seconds. The lights went dark. Pods opened. Children awoke. Free. Kale's ship hovered just outside the warship's hull, the sky behind him filled with Dominion cruisers ready to fire. He saw the ship's core begin to break apart. No, Lisa. Then a single beam of blue light shot from the ship's center, straight into the sky, and from it. Lisa flew, not walking, flying. Her body glowed like a star. She landed on the hull beside him, barefoot, calm. You said come back? She smiled. I didn't expect you to glow. Kale laughed. She took his hand. Let's go. They left the Dominion behind. They left the labs, the past, the pain, and in the days that followed, something strange happened. Planets started whispering about the girl who walked through fire, the girl who melted machines with her hands, the girl who gave names to the nameless. Lisa became a myth, not because of what she destroyed, but because of what she set free. Epilogue months later. In a quiet green valley on a peaceful planet, Lisa stood near a group of children, young, wide-eyed, and bright. Some looked like her, some didn't. All of them were once lost, once locked, in cages. Now they laughed, Rand learned. She looked up as Kale joined her, handing her a small necklace. What's this? She asked. It's your old ID chip, he said. I melted it into something better. The small metal piece now said, one word, Lisa. She smiled. I was once sold for nothing, she whispered. But now, they'd give worlds to kneel before me.